Time now for the first guest speaker. He is a C-suite executive specializing in storytelling, strategy, growth, and communications. He is passion and purpose-driven. He writes and speaks of the importance of protecting your personal brand for a rewarding life and career. Ladies and gentlemen, business athlete and author Ron Wagner.
Although I'd rather listen to the song. Hey, this is really cool, folks. Really awesome to be here. I'm the guy that came all the way from Philly, so I left really warm and sunny Philadelphia in January for really sunny and warm January in Chicago. But this is an awesome event, and tons of credit and praise and thanks go to Caden, the 1% team, and all of Fit Factor. Take advantage of this night. I didn't have this stuff when I was 18 to 24, 24 to 30. I didn't have these kind of events when I was building a life and career. Okay, trivia question. Who can tell me the walk-up song?
Kickstart Your Heart.
Kickstart Your Heart. Who knows the band? Motley Crue. Okay. I picked that song for a simple reason. The Dr. Feelgood album, Kickstart My Heart, was actually from their prior album. But I love Motley Crue, and their Dr. Feelgood album dropped in the spring of '89, right when I was graduating college. I wasn't quite 22. And as I tell people, back then, my hair was a lot heavier, the body was a lot thinner, and the reverse is true now, 34 years later, 35 years later. But right then, I was about to launch my brand for the first time. Except I didn't know I was launching my brand for the first time. I was just looking for a job. And looking backwards now, I've realized the past 30 plus years have been about building a brand to really build a life and career that's been rewarding for me. So, Steve gave me a great intro. I'm going to get a little bit more into the real bio in a second, but why am I here? Steve had mentioned, and I think Kate may have mentioned as well, I am a huge, fervent believer in not only the necessity of having to build a personal brand, but the power of building a personal brand. And I'm going to take you through a couple things, the reasons why you need to build a personal brand, and give you some initial tactical steps you can take to uncover your brand, manage it, market it, and protect it. But I want to get a little bit more into my bio here. So, I like to tell people that I'm really just a kid from Philly who made good. And that's God's honest truth here. I wasn't someone born on third base and acted like I hit a triple. I was talking with Matt Balducci about baseball. I was a guy that every day as a kid, I had to get up to the plate, get knocked down with inside fastballs, dust myself off, and work my way around the bases. My parents didn't go to college. They worked 4 or 5 jobs at one time to be able to afford to send 4 kids to Catholic grade school, Catholic high school. I was the first in my family to go to college. My parents couldn't introduce me to connections in the corporate world. Everything I had to do, I had to scrap and claw and open my own doors. When I graduated college, I was watching all of my engineering friends starting out at $45,000, $50,000, $60,000. It was a lot of money back in the late 80s. My first job was paying $17,500. And I was glad to get it for a simple reason. I was in. I had a foot in the door. And I knew that once I was in, it was up to me to take advantage of the opportunity. And that was really the embarking of building the personal brand. Excuse me, folks. You're going to hear me talking a lot about branding. Give you a little history lesson first. Who knows the Cracker Barrel restaurants? Everybody? Okay. Well, the term Cracker Barrel literally was a cracker barrel. You go back to the 1800s, general stores, general merchandise, there would be a cracker barrel, or in some cases even a pickle barrel. Shoppers would come by, scoop out the crackers they needed, bring it up to the merchant, pay for it. There was no brand differentiation, there was no packaging, there was no distinguishing one cracker from the other. Until the Unita Biscuit Company said, you know what? I want people to choose my product by name, by sight. I want to rise above the cracker barrel. I want to be relevant, different, and better. I want to stand up and stand out. They were an early practitioner of packaging because they wanted people to pay more and give greater consideration for their product. Same thing you need to do with your personal brand. I've heard tons of definitions about what a brand is. You know, I follow a branding company called Profit. There's a guy named David Ocker who is a branding guru. And there's a lot of Wikipedia definitions and marketing textbooks. But I think the simplest definition and the most powerful definition of what a brand is, it's what you tell your friends about afterwards. Think about that. I may be a brand marketer, but I'm the steward of a brand. A brand is owned by the buyer. So as you're building a personal brand, what do you want the people you engage with? Your boss, your colleagues, your peers, your roommates, your friends. Do you want them to tell their friends about a bad brand experience they had with you or a tremendous brand experience? So think about that. Don't overcomplicate things when it comes to really personal marketing and brand building. Think about the impressions you're going to leave that will have them telling their friends good things about you afterwards. Makes sense, right? Okay. I think Caden said something to the effect of greatness and ticketed for greatness. All right. I've got two children. My son's 29, my daughter's 27, and they were not immune from the trials and the tribulations and the anxieties and the fears and the struggles and concerns that every preteen, teen, and young adult has. In fact, at 27 and 29, they're still dealing with things that require, pop stepping in and helping them. But back in their teen years, I would tell them when they were feeling down or they were struggling with things, I would just say, guys, you are ticketed for greatness. You have to believe that. And greatness doesn't come easily. It comes with stumbles, learnings, failures, grit, perseverance, having a goal and a vision. And I said, it's not going to be easy. Nothing worthwhile is easy. But I also tell them to be ticketed for greatness, you have to really understand what your brand is all about. I mean, I was using my career. I was giving a marketing speak and trying to be smart with them. But I think they got it. But I put this up here for a simple reason. Everybody here in this room, regardless of age, is ticketed for greatness if you're making a commitment to come to an event like that. And I think that ticket is punched today, what you do after this, and if you take steps to really uncover your brand, market, manage, and protect it. And again, I'll get into some tactics on how you do it. Okay, so I'm going to tell you why building a personal brand is very valuable, but I've got to hit you with some ugly truth first. Tracy may know some of these. These are things that anyone is going to face in their life and career from 18 to 44, 18 to 54, 18 to 64. $103,000. That's the average cost of an in-state college education. 103 grand, a lot of money. But 3 out of 4 college graduates will never use the degree that they just paid for. 250. That's how many applicants there are for each job posted. But only 10 of 250, 4%, ever get a sniff or a look at an interview. 70% of hiring managers are going to look at your social profile as they screen candidates. And more than half are going to completely eliminate any candidates from consideration based on how you present yourself socially. Okay, is this scared you yet? All right, I got a few more. 65% of workers are looking for a new job each year. 2 out of every 3 are in constant circulation looking for something else. 60%, 6 out of 10 workers have just checked out. They're emotionally detached at work, their company. They're just mailing it in. Those are the folks that are not creating destiny, but they're resigning themselves to fate. 35%. All of us want a raise at our job. It doesn't matter the level you achieve. You want to make more. Well, guess what? So does 1 in every 3 of your coworkers. You're going to be competing with them for the dollars that you want. And 12. If you work 36 years, you're going to be changing jobs every 3 years. All right, so why am I hitting you with all these things? Not to scare you, but the bottom line is, as you embark on life and career as a young adult, or as a less young adult who is still pivoting in his career, we're all going to be in a crowded, cluttered, competitive marketplace. We're going to have to make many pivots in our career. We're going to have struggles. We're going to have competition. The way that you put yourselves in a better position to create your destiny rather than accept the fate of a career is building a strong personal brand. Absolutely. As I transition into some of the tactical elements, 1, I impress this upon as many people as I can. You are not a resume. A resume is nothing but a piece of paper filled with flat words. There's no dimension, there's no personality. 1, you're not a resume. 2, you're not an employee, you're not a teammate, you're not a cast member, you're not an associate. You have to believe that you are a brand. The same way Nike, Netflix, Spotify, DoorDash, Apple, they're all powerful brands. You have to believe you are a brand. And each brand offers something to the marketplace that is relevant, different, and better than a competing brand. If all brands were the same, you would just compete on price and it'd be a race to the cheapest. Think about building a brand that positions you as relevant, different, and better than those other 250 that are competing, and those other 35% looking for a raise. And the bottom line is, in building a brand, you're doing this to stand up and stand out. Who's walked the supermarket aisles? Right? Everybody. You go down the cereal aisle, how many boxes hit you? There's got to be hundreds of choices. There's something called the paradox of choice. We all want choice, but if we have more than 3 or 4 choices we don't choose, well, you have hiring managers with 250 applicants. They are going down that cereal aisle. How do they know which box to pick? Which box pops from the store shelf? That's the essence of personal branding. So we're talking about the brand of you, right? So I've talked about the importance of it as it relates to some of those cold, hard facts. But think of the tools that are needed to build that brand. All right, you see what that is? Does anyone know what's on the left there? I'm asking the young folks. I know people in my demographic. Does the word typewriter mean anything to anybody? Okay. As a Christmas gift, my senior year of college, my parents got me an electric typewriter. So I could type letters and mail resumes to companies. That was my personal branding toolkit. All of you have so much more with tools like Constant Contact, with LinkedIn, with content marketing strategies, with video content distribution. And we'll talk tactically about that in a minute or two. But take advantage of the tools available to you. Don't just be someone pushing resumes. Think about building a brand. Okay, so why should I care about building a brand? All right, who's a Star Wars fan? Who's an original Star Wars trilogy fan? Okay, so by the time the movie Return of the Jedi was released in the spring of '83, over 40 years ago, the first two Star Wars movies were already shattering box office records across the galaxy. No pun intended, but it was phenomenal. So when the third installment of the movie came out, you had people lining up around the corner for days across the country to be among the first people to see the show. There were movie theaters that did nothing but play it around the clock in all of their theaters. And the bottom line truth is, people will travel further, pay more, and give greater consideration and time and effort to be associated with brands of value. That's been borne out with the great brands of our time, their financial performance, their stock market performance. You want your stock to climb significantly as a powerful brand. So I'm going to tell you a personal story here. All right, anyone from Michigan? Okay, anyone know Bell's Brewery?
Yes.
Okay, love Bell's Brewery. Love Bell's Brewery. That beer, Hop Slam, is my all-time favorite beer. It's a double IPA, brewed with a little bit of honey, and it is a tough, tough get each year. It comes out once a year. Used to be January, now it comes out kind of Thanksgiving, early December. On the East Coast, limited supply. I go on their Beer Finder app, and I find where it's being distributed near me in suburban Philadelphia. And once I know when it hits the stores, I get in my car on a Saturday, and I have about 30 to 40 mile radius, and I spend the day going beer distributor, bottle shop, supermarket, clearing as much inventory as I can before it's gone. And my wife has limited my purchasing to about 8 to 10 cases max. That's about $80 a pop for a case. So I'm spending $600, $700, $800 on a Saturday, driving all over the Philadelphia region to acquire this brand. Again, I use that as an example that if you build a brand that is a premium quality, people will travel further, pay more, and give greater consideration and time to acquire it. Okay. Anyone know who this guy is? I know Steve does. I'm going to give a nod to my age again. So, college basketball junkie in my early teen years, 81 to 85, I was in high school. And at that time, Michael Jordan, 81 to 84, was starting to become a legend at the University of North Carolina. Left college early as the Naismith Award winner, drafted 4th, 5th, 3rd, behind Sam Bowie and Olajuwon, maybe? Michael Jordan was a basketball player, but Michael Jordan quickly became a brand. I think he was the first sports athlete to have a shoe designed and named after him. Nike Air Jordan. What's Air Jordan like now? Who's got them on? AJ, you have Air Jordans on? Okay. What's he done since then? He's played baseball. He's been in movies. He's been a team owner. He is the businesses he's invested in. Look at the national championship. College football fans here? All right. Michigan, Monday night, when they take on University of Washington, check the Jumpman logo that they have on their shirt. Michael Jordan transcended just his talent and skills to become a dominant force, a personal brand. So, a couple things to leave you with before I hit you with just some hard tactics that can put you on the path to kind of building your personal brand. Number one, you gotta believe that you are a brand. Again, you're not a resume, you're not an associate, you're a brand. Number two, to uncover that brand, you have to look inwardly. And I've got a slide on how you look inwardly right after this. And number three, you have to be your best. Remember, a good definition of a brand is what people tell their friends about afterwards. Be your best so that the stories that are passed along are your best. Perfect example. There's your supermarket aisle. Every one of those people is a job applicant. How do you pop from the shelves? Well, here you go. What's the boy looking at? Okay. Has anyone ever heard the term navel for a belly button? Has anyone ever heard that? Have we heard the term navel gazing? Has anyone heard that term? I use it a lot. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, you look at your navel. Like, what's a navel? Like, it's a belly button. So, I just want to check. But 20 years ago, I was working for a global financial services firm, not to be named. I was second in line to the chief marketing officer, and I'd worked for him for a number of years. It was about a 60-person marketing team. And I'm a sports guy, and I just got tired of carrying the clipboard. I wanted to be the starting quarterback. And I looked around and said, if I'm going to market myself, I just worked for this company for 14 years, and all my network is in this company. How do I get people to know of me outside of these four walls? And I'm like, well, it's not a resume. And so it hit me like a blinding flash of the obvious. Every time I've launched a product or a campaign, I go through a series of marketing steps to really help me frame the initiative, to frame the brand so that it's positioned well for launch. These are some of the questions that I've always used for marketing products. But I said, I gotta turn it inwardly. I've gotta ask myself these same questions. Number one, what's my brand promise? What do I offer to my marketplace? Number two, what makes that brand promise relevant, different, or better? And the term relevant is very important. Perfect example. Years back, Swiss Air was voted the top airline for airline food when they used to serve food. So they marketed their product as being the best airline with the best food in the industry. Great. They were different and they were better. But research showed that all travelers cared about was being treated with courtesy and respect by the gate agents and the stewardesses, the flight attendants, and the people at the airlines. And they wanted to be picked up on time and put down on time. So Swiss Air may have had a different and better benefit, but it wasn't relevant. So what do you do that's relevant, different, and better? Who's your target audience? Who is it you're speaking to as you launch your career for the first time or relaunch it for the second, third, or fourth time? What are their functional and emotional needs? Every buying decision has function, it serves a utility, but there's also emotion involved in it. Think about this. Even if you're selling products to a company, Tracy knows this, you're selling services to a company. It's not a faceless company you're selling it to. You're selling it to a person that if they make the bad decision, their career's on the line, their reputation's on the line, their ability to pay their mortgage, feed their family. So there's function and emotion in every decision. Who's your audience? What are their functional emotional needs? What problem does your brand solve? And what's the proof that your brand solves the problem? How do you substantiate your claims? And then what's the single most important message to communicate to your audience? there's about 8 to 10 other questions that I go through in marketing products and campaigns, but I also pose these to young and not so young professionals who are looking to really devise a personal branding strategy. Let me give you an example of this, real-time example of this. 5 weeks ago, I was at a college outside of Philadelphia, and they wanted me to participate in a resume review event. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. You know, I'm not going to sit there and read papers, because I don't necessarily believe in the resume. You have to have it. So I sat with 20 or 30 people individually, and I didn't review the resume. I asked them questions about their story. There was a young lady, a senior, 21 years old. I asked her, where'd you grow up? What was your family like? Where'd you go to high school? Were you involved in anything? Did you work during high school? Why'd you pick this college? What are you studying? What do you want to be? Etc., etc. What I learned about her was she grew up in a poor neighborhood, broken home, had to work in high school, but set a goal for herself that she wanted to be a homeowner at age 18. She was a homeowner at age 18. Going to college, working 40 hours to help pay for that home. Selling that home and buying another one at 21. Interning on Wall Street for 2 summers in a row. And I said, well, what do you want to do? And she said, I came from a community of color and unbanked consumers. I want to coach people on how they can become banked and get involved in the market. Not an advisor, not a stock trader. I want to teach them the skills they need to build personal wealth. So, I looked at her resume. There was nothing about her story there. And if I take it to this, she knew her brand promise. She knew what made herself relevant, different, and better. She knew the audience she wanted to serve when she launched her brand at graduation. She knew their functional and emotional needs. She knew the problem it solved. She had proof that her brand could solve the problem because she did it as a 2-time homeowner while still in college. And I said to her, throw the resume out. We have to build on a personal brand strategy for you, a content strategy, a LinkedIn strategy to help you market this. The resume's not going to do it. And again, that's an example of a person that went through a process to really help uncover what it is that makes her relevant, different, and better. It's not as simple as that. There's a number of other steps that I take to help people really uncover that. Okay, home stretch here. Who knows where that building is? Who said Fort Knox? What's at Fort Knox?
Gold.
How much gold?
Lots.
Lots. If you can believe Wikipedia or other things, I think it's $7 trillion in gold that is kept at Fort Knox. Shame on me. Is it Fort Knox, Kentucky? Is it Kentucky?
It is.
You would better believe that that building is locked down and secure. So, show of hands here. When you guys leave your houses, do you lock your house? Go to bed at night, do you lock your house? Park your car, do you lock your car?
Yes.
Do you change your passwords frequently for banking and things like that?
No.
Okay, you need to. I found out the hard way. But why do you do that? To protect what's valuable. I have to tell you that your personal brand is probably the most valuable thing that needs protecting and locking down. I can tell you stories, I'm sure Steve can tell you stories, of people that have destroyed their careers and their futures by not respecting and protecting the integrity and the tenets of their personal brand. So as you think about going through a brand discovery process, defining your brand principles, what you stand for, what makes you relevant, different, and better, you also have to think about how do you stay true to it, and how do you make sure it stays unimpeachable. Okay, So, with that, my last thing to say to you is think RDB. RDB. It's something I learned 30 years ago when I was working on some marketing campaigns with a Detroit-based ad agency. They had this process of brand discovery called the RDB process. And it stuck with me. And it is almost words or an acronym I live by. Think about what makes you relevant, different, and better than the people you're going to compete with for opportunities in life and career, for a raise or a promotion. If you focus on building your personal brand to be relevant, different, and better, then as I tell my kids, and I know they don't listen, but I think they do sometimes, you are going to be creating destiny rather than being resigned to fate. Okay, so I have to do this. I'm not flying all the way from Philadelphia without getting an absolutely shameless plug-in for my book. So, and I'm not one of these self-help guys. The dean of the College of Communications, Penn State, sat down with me one-on-one and wanted to have lunch with me. And I said, why me? There's people from this college that are network news anchors, foreign war correspondents, that are writing screenplays and novels, that are journalists, Washington Post and New York Times. I said, I'm just a guy who used my degree in advertising and communications every day to build a life and career. And she said, that makes you just like 99% of every graduate. She says, you've got stories of life that you share on LinkedIn. Put it all together and share it with folks. So I just put this together more to tell people, for those that are thinking you're the only one that has gone through the struggles or have the same fears and anxieties or think that you can't succeed because you don't have money or means or running head start in life, I'm here to tell you, don't believe that. And I share a lot of 2-page war stories that are all about that are just real life stuff that I went through. And it's available on Amazon. And it makes a great paperweight or a doorstop, even if you don't read it. So, with that, I say thank you. And again, a lot of praise, a lot of thanks go to Caden and the team here for hosting such an event. Thank you, everyone.